Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, TV Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. My name is Dr. Marissa, your hashtag positively opinionated host. And this is show number 1019, podcast number 1019. So I'm so grateful that those who said a show about hope and happiness would not last were wrong. And it is 593 consecutive weeks. And I'm so glad that you're still here, that you are still tuned in. Whether you're driving on your way to work, whether you're at work, whether you are streaming on your Facebook or my LinkedIn or my Show Central YouTube channel. And if you free subscribe to that, you will actually get an alert every weekday morning for my 9 a.m. show. And every day, I promise to bring you something, hopefully, that you didn't know about before. I think it's life is way too short not to learn something new every single day, which I love doing. And that's why I have topics and guests that illuminate me first and then hopefully you second. And we are going to start every show. This last year, I started this little discipline called Having Breakfast with Me. And especially when the co-hosts have not arrived yet. So I don't know, Frank, if I think I won the bet. So it is always interesting when I have co-hosts, whether when exactly they're going to show up. I shouldn't say that. I have some co-hosts that are very regular. But we absolutely want you to tune in so that you can comment. I have a cashew gallery. Sometimes it comes in from all over the world. And certainly welcoming you all to comment and speak your mind. This is the place you can do it. Although never brutally honest. And everybody doesn't have to have a right to your opinion. But on this show, we'd love to hear what you think about this, the things and the people and the topics. Although there is no gossip, no scandal, and no K words on this show. But we are going to start with gratitude. And guess what, Frank? You are going to get to play with me this morning because you are sitting in proxy for Sam. And what are you grateful for? So I'm going to start with, I am super grateful that we have first responders, police, emergency. My excuse was without my phone, I didn't realize days and times and everything. Those of you who didn't tune in on Monday, it was a gratitude show because I got on the wrong side of the tracks, literally, in the train station at Solano Beach. But because the staff were so amazing, Stephen Campbell, Jeff Smith, Jerry, the Amtrak police, and then David at the ticket office in Santa Fe, I was able to get my phone back. And if you're the person who picked it up and returned it, please let me know. I want to thank you very much. It was really a miracle. Nobody ever thought that when I saw the phone going down the tracks, literally on my daughter screenshotted from San Francisco, the Find My app, and the phone was literally making its way down to the wrong station because I was going north. But someone turned it in, and I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful that, you know, as much as the news, which my big brother Michael Bernard Beckwith calls a weapon of mass distraction, as much as the news is very negative, and sometimes you look at it and go, because they highlight people who are doing stupid things or dumb things or horrible things, our temptation is to say, what's wrong with people? But in instances like this, definitely it is what is right with people, because they turned the phone in and my credit cards are in here and everything was intact. Now, I also want to raise at this point, so I don't forget, that if you are at all concerned and surprised, like I was, that the Amtrak stations are now closed. And if what had happened this week, it would be a whole different story. I wouldn't have my phone. They wouldn't have contacted me, because almost every station that I usually go down, I go from here to San Diego, and I love taking the train down. And those of you who are on my social media, Doc Balance on Instagram, know that I love posting that train ride down. And I've been doing it for 20 years. And I was just shocked to hear that, every station, Solano Beach is closing, and people who are retiring, are retiring early. I don't know if it's by choice. They're having to move. And my heart just goes out to the Amtrak employees, number one, who are just like, and I didn't even hear about this on the news. How does it happen that I don't hear that this major Amtrak stations closing are happening? And I am an investigative reporter, broadcast journalist. So, it's always interesting, the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Or, why do dumb things like I did, leaving, or, not being on the right side of the tracks to catch the last train back? There is always a reason, and maybe this is the reason. I don't know, but I'm definitely alerting all my news colleagues to, before I officially report on it, I'm doing an investigation, finding out how this has happened without anyone really being aware of it. Because certainly the people that are going to suffer the most, besides ding dongs like me, who not only miss the last train but lose their phone, are the people who pay cash for tickets. And there's a lot of people who are still, don't have smartphones, or prefer using cash, or, all of those things. They are now SOL, because the self-service is no longer going to work, because of the no personnel at the stations. Also, those with ADA, who have disabilities, they're also impacted, because there's no one there that's going to be able to help them. Which has been, the staff have been wonderful. Certainly, again, my situation. So, if you are at all concerned, and if you are at all surprised like I am, let me know. drmarissa.life, and maybe we can do like a team effort here to find out what the heck's going on, because Amtrak is a big company, and I understand that it's been tough times, but going to an automated only system, I don't know. I love technology. 2 days without my phone was enough to convince me that I am a definite. I love my phone. I love my smartphone. But this is getting to a little point of concern. So if you're with me, let me know. All right, back to the gratitude sandwich. Frank is grateful for music, which is awesome. I am grateful for the fans that help bring a little coolness. I'm grateful for, Frank, you can keep going now. I'm grateful for air conditioning. I think that's been said, although it does feel like it's cooling off a bit. I'm grateful for my uh, grand dog son. Those of you who have seen my social as well, I've been babysitting my daughter's boyfriend's Frenchie, Pablo, and that's been amazing. I'm thankful that I have him to babysit and make me laugh. Let's see. I am grateful for the fact that the planets did not crash into each other last night, and we have another new day to live, love, laugh, and learn. I'm grateful for the eyeballs that are rolling in as you're streaming in to talk about a very interesting topic today. It's a carryover from last week, and this is now probably the latest that my co-host has showed up. So I'm just going to give him a call. And Frank is grateful for Pablo too. He thinks he's very cute. He's actually like napping. I'll show you. He's there. He had a pretty wild morning. All right. I think his all right. And then the next is his mama. And Frank, you can also, if you would text Mark and let him ask if, I don't know if he's there too. But all right, so let's go to the bottom of the bun. And it is 8 things that I appreciate about myself. And this is my effort to get you to appreciate who you are. And we talked about this on yesterday's show. If you missed my newest series, Doctors in the House with Dr. Tiffany Tate, we talked about the journey to the center of you. You can get that episode. Free subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a playlist with that new series, and it was a great exploration of who we really are. And one of the things that's happened now, the good news with Oprah interviewing Prince Harry and his wife. I just started watching that Suits thing. It's like, oh, no wonder he fell in love with her. But that interview, along with a lot of entertainers coming forth and talking candidly about their own mental health struggles, has allowed us to make this a non-taboo topic. That's the good news. The bad news is, this is a psychological phenomena. Every time you focus attention on something, it grows bigger and more people come out and talk about it. But as well, more people get to the point where they're reaching for something outside of themselves to make them feel better. And so we see it in the statistics, especially since COVID or during COVID, there was an uptick in pharmaceutical people popping pills to make themselves feel better, that instant relief. And I'm not against pharmaceuticals. Certainly I have, when my back goes out or anything like that. But I also, it's my BS, my belief system that sometimes we reach too quickly and don't help ourselves get to the root of the issue without masking it with some pharmaceuticals. So I'm always about how can we manage first our own mental health so we don't get to the point where we're in crisis, or, how can we work that muscle of self-care, self-love, self-approval, which I think are the hallmark of good mental health. So that's why I have us do 8 things that we appreciate about ourselves. So Frank, you can also put this in the chat. What do you like about yourself? And I'm going to actually give you one, is that you are very reliable. And I love that about you. And I hope you own that as something that you know that's great about yourself. I am resilient. I am creative. I am fashionable. That's 3. You said reliable, and you're appreciative. You just said thanks. That's 5. I am fun loving. I am competitive, maybe to a fault. And finally, let's see if Frank is going to chime in there. I am happy 88% of the time. And that's it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and Frank, my sound engineer. I promise that if you do this exercise, this discipline for the next 28 days consecutively, you will have an amazing day wrapped in gratitude and appreciation. All right. And because I'm an affirmer. All righty. Now, let's get to the topic at hand. Last week, we talked about the 5 love languages. And if you missed that show, go to my YouTube channel, free subscribe, and you will see me taking the quiz that actually helped me understand why I am attracted to some people and not other people. It is the theory that your love language compatibility will help your romance or your relationship. And I actually had on my oh gosh, it was years ago, but my expert on not 5 love languages but 5 sex languages, and Dr. Douglas Weiss was on my show to illuminate me and my listening and watching audience on what the 5 sex languages were. So it's interesting. I actually put a clip up of part of his interview, and you can get that also on my YouTube channel. And what I'm going to do is let's just go there, since I'm having to MSU, make shiitake up, and be flexible here. Dr. Marissa and Dr. Weiss. And let's see, there it is. And I will share this with you, and we will see what he says. And if you just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in the studio, it is Dr. Marissa with Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with me. And it is Thursday. It is Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa, because Sam Works is MIA and not sure why, but we are going to pivot. And here is,
that's ubnradio.com.
and I'm just going to move forward here.
People that they need so much.
And
And today is no exception.
There we go.
I actually have Dr. Douglas Weiss calling in from Colorado. He's a nationally known author, speaker, and licensed psychologist. He's appeared on many national talk shows, including Oprah, Dr. Phil, Good Morning America in 2020. Dr. Weiss has made a television movie about his treatment of sex addicts on Lifetime called Sex, Lies, and Obsession, and hosted Winning at Marriage, an international television show. He's an Amazon bestseller with more than 30 books on how to successfully heal relationships, addictions, or cope with sexually addicted partners. Welcome to the show, Dr. Douglas Weiss.
Oh, it's so good to be here.
Hello and welcome.
Well, it's good to be here, Dr. Marissa.
Great. And you've worked in this field for a long time, but I'm sure
30 years.
30 years. I'm sure I saw your picture and watched a little bit of your YouTube. So you must use oil of Olay, because you don't look at that you've been working that long at it. But I'm sure you've collected quite a bit of experience in this whole arena of sex and pleasure and marriage and couples. I'd like to start with the whole term and the world of sexual addiction. So, what is your definition of what that is, and what are the trends that you're seeing with people that they need sexual healing from in this area?
Well, I mean, sexual addiction it's a way of coping with life, either past or present. It's using sex, no matter what the behavior, self-behavior, behavior with others, to medicate, to avoid, to escape, in a way that becomes compulsive, self-destructive, and oftentimes, you tried to stop. I'm a recovering sex addict. I've been sober for over 30 years. No self-behavior, nothing outside my marriage. I take a polygraph to verify that. And people fly in and do intensives in our office every single week and have for many, many years.
So you've had
that's
that
how we
experience. Okay. So
I'm sorry, what?
you've had that experience yourself.
Oh yeah, I know what it's like to be totally out of control sexually. I know what it's like to have sex with several people in a day. I know what it's like to be insane.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to be sober and free and well and healthy and have the best sex of your life too. I would go for where I am today, rather than there. And anyone can get there if they want to. If we want to talk about sexual addiction recovery, we can. But in working with sex addicts, that's how we discovered the 5 sex language. We discovered intimacy and anorexia. We discovered a lot of things in helping people deal with either their sexual abuse, their family of origin stuff, or just their brain being hijacked sexually, gluing it to the fantasy world and not knowing how to have relational sex.
Right.
And once they start learning how to have relational sex, I mean, addiction is not appealing.
Right. Now, your newest book, The 5 Languages of Sex, does help not just people who identify with sexual addiction, correct? This book is
this is for
anyone,
everybody
right,
to have a great sex life.
Okay.
I mean, if you're perfectly wonderful and you've never had a sexual impure thought, this book is for you, because you want to learn what your sex language is, what your partner's sex language is, so that you can take them to the highest level of pleasure. I also wrote a book called The Power of Pleasure. I know your mission is to create more pleasure on the planet.
Yes.
And I love pleasure. Pleasure is a great thing. But what I've learned, Dr. Marissa, is that people don't talk about sex in an intelligent way to really know how to take their partner to another place, not just physically, but what is their sex languages? What is it they want to hear during the invitation, during the encounter, after the encounter, that can make their sexual encounters so much more pleasurable? I mean, it's mind-blowing how much more pleasure you can give your spouse or your partner.
Does it take the magic, though, out of the moment or the mood when you actually talk about, I like this, I don't like this, I like that? There's an intellectual part of me. I don't know if it's denial or avoidance because I don't want to do it, but it just seems like, I guess maybe I was schooled in, the romance fairy tale that the man is just so, if you're with someone and you're intimate with them, that it's just supposed to be naturally good. I know
Sure,
that
he's
that's
supposed
not
to be able
true.
to fix cars and rewire the house and do drywall and be able to be happy about doing that. There's lots of fantasies about men and fantasies about women that aren't helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But and
Pun intended.
If you expect because you're a woman you're supposed to be a gourmet chef, I mean that might be disappointing to some people.
Right.
But it's not about gender, because depending on your sex language, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You might be fun sex language, you might be a desire, you might be a pleasure sex language. And this isn't about positions and doing this and doing that. This is about learning their language. Okay. Because once you learn their language, it might make sense why they like that or like this. And you can start having those conversations, even the conversation, because in the book we talk about, how often do you want to have sex? What are the things that you want to put in your sexual garden? What works for the both of you? And so we have those conversations as well.
Okay.
So if you can get a couple to sit down and have an honest conversation, it's going to go better for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do say that communication helps as long as you actually first understand and then agree. So let's talk about that. What if you're not the same? You're not using the same sex language. What then?
You're not. I can guarantee you. Okay. I have never met a couple who have the same sex language.
Really?
It doesn't happen.
Okay. So
it might happen on a one-night stand. It might happen like if you're hooking up with someone over the weekend. okay, because maybe you put out there exactly what you're looking for, and they might not be able to have mature sex anyway, so maybe that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But like on a long-term relationship, very rarely will you have the same sex language as the other person. And I think it's just kind of like, God, universe, sense of humor, because you have to grow to be able to be a better lover to the person that you really love.
And there's the truth.
So when you understand that sex is a journey and your journey is to grow towards the other person and them to grow towards you, it's just like the love languages. I've never heard anyone have the same love language. Sex language, exactly the same.
Okay.
You're going to marry or be in a long-term relationship with someone who is sexually language different than you are, so you can grow.
Mm-hmm.
And once you accept that, it's like, okay, well, give me the book. Let me find out what makes them tick. And it's going to be different than what makes you tick, which you can look at as either frustrating and get resentment and get hurt about, or you can look at it as an adventure and just play with it. And have a good time and grow.
Right.
And go, you know what? I can play you like a piano, baby. I know your language. It's desire. I know what to say to you. I know what makes you work. I know what to say to you during sex and after sex. I know how to put icing on the cake, baby, because I know you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's just like, if your husband likes a certain kind of food, you may not like it, but you'll get good at cooking at it.
Mm-hmm. That's a really, really, really good point, and I want to anchor that one because I think that many of us get into trouble because we have this BS, this belief system that people are just supposed to know that if you're in love, that's the sex is just naturally going to follow in the most perfect way or the most fulfilling way. But actually, it is there's a learning curve, just like anything else that you want to be really good at. If you've just tuned in and you're wondering why I'm talking about sex again, it is true. It is the Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa series, last week of the month, and you are tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And today we do have expert Dr. Douglas Weiss, who's the author of The 5 Sex Languages. And we're looking at how you can have a better sex life by tuning in and learning what your sex language is and what your partner's is. So let's go through the 5 so that I'm really clear, so I can use this as homework whenever I end up with someone in bed. In a relationship. So, okay. So the first is.
It works better if you get more than one try.
Oh, okay. Well, what did someone tell you? No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't do one night stands. I'm lucky if I do any stands at all. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about the 5 sex languages.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give the positive qualities, but in the book, we talk about being immature.
Okay.
Because you can be sexually mature in your language or you can be immature in your sex language. I'm going to say.
Okay. Oops. I just lost you there. Did we hang up? He hung up. Oh, I think you accidentally hung up. But that's okay. This is Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, and we'll have him back on the line. And it is a very interesting concept. We're talking about the 5 sex languages that you have in any sexual encounter. And he is advocating for the long-term relationship.
The rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Now, if you're someone who's jumping around from bed to bed, you probably want to learn all 5 languages so you can figure it out. But if you're in a long-term relationship, learning how to pleasure one person with the right sex language can totally make a huge difference. Now, so I'm a psychologist, so people fly from all over the country and world to come see me, literally every single week.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a couple that came in from another country, and they came in to have a better sex life. They were married for about a year or two, and they just couldn't figure it out. I had them discuss their sex languages, find out what it was, and then I had them ask for sex kind of generically, I want to make love to you. Okay. Then I said, now, you know your spouse's sex language, ask according to the language. And it radically changed the response. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could feel the energy. You know how you feel energy? Mm-hmm. It was amazingly different. And so if you want to get more yeses, you might want to talk the language of the person speaking.
Absolutely. I mean, it makes logical sense. But can you be a combo?
Yeah, there's some people that kind of will bounce around a little bit, but generally
you have a preference. It's like Myers. You have a preference in a certain type. Now,
Right.
if you're a certain type, should you be looking for a compatible type? Like, is
No, you're not going to
celebration
find
better
that.
than? I mean, celebrations are
You're
better
not
than
even going to be probably
fun.
attracted to that.
Okay, so celebration probably won't be attracted to
if
fun.
you're a patient person, you want someone to spend time on you. You're not that committed to spend time on someone else.
Okay. Oh, so it's it's not necessarily what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
No, this is like falling in love is an amazing thing, but you're going to grow financially, you're going to grow spiritually, you're going to grow in relationship. If you have kids, you're going to grow as a parent, and you're going to grow sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And when you fall in love, you're just beginning a master's level course on that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes decades to unfold the revelation of that person to you. And sex is part of that. But what I do is I give you a cheat sheet. And in the 5 sex languages, you have a cheat sheet to learn to expedite your sex education with your partner or spouse,
mm-hmm.
and get that one knocked out.
Now, how do you? I mean, first you have to really know what your own sex language is, and this is where I do believe that there is a gender difference. Where I also coach couples and quite a few women who, you know, their whole life has been about pleasing their sex partner. So whatever,
Sure, so
you
they don't
know,
know how to
whatever,
pleasure
they
themselves.
don't know how to pleasure themselves, literally and figuratively and emotionally and intellectually. They don't know how. And so they go through the motions, they have a 20-year marriage, and then they finally say, you know, I'm not fulfilled. I totally am not fulfilled. So for women who are in that situation, what would you say to them? Because I have a lot of listeners who write in.
I would say you're going to have to find your sexual voice. Every woman has a sexual voice.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you tuned her out. You don't listen to her. And she gets smaller and smaller. You're going to have to, ask her to forgive you, grow in your sexuality. I have a book called Intimacy and Anorexia where I actually teach men and women how to actually find their sexuality and engage it. But the sex language book might be a really good start, because if she went to her husband and said, I want to have better and more sex with you, would you mind if we go through a book together so that we can do that? Most guys will sign up for that. and if you say, listen, this is really this is why I find that the 5 sex language gives the couples a language.
Mm-hmm.
Just like sex addiction gives a language, intimacy and anorexia gives a language, the 5 sex language gives a language. And once you have a language, you can have a conversation. This is why she's unfulfilled, because she's probably a patient sex language, and he's, hurry up and get it over with.
Right.
And she's totally unfulfilled. Well, if he can say, oh, this is what she's been trying to say to me, I get it. And then say, you know what, if you want foreplay for 15 minutes and we're going to have more sex, I'm all for that. Like, if this is what I got to do to warm up the car to be able to drive, most guys can put 2 and 2 together.
Yes, that's most guys, and probably the guys that go and see you. But I've heard horror stories, and putting the moose on the table right now, of men who don't want to be told how they are not doing well in the bedroom. I mean, that
there's immature versions, and that's why we didn't cover those. But the immature versions, there are guys who are just jerks. Okay. And then there are women who let guys be jerks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've had shows on boundaries and communication, and she needs to have a boundary. And she might need to take him to get help.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's going to be a jerk, you can say, listen, you're going to be a jerk. You don't want to learn me? Well, then you don't get to play me, baby. Mm-hmm. When you want to learn me, you can play me.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Giving women a voice is really important. I've written several books about women getting their power.
Yeah.
And I believe in women having their power in a relationship. They should be in an equal relationship. And if they're in a relationship where they aren't using their power and they've given their power away, they need to get their power, even their sexual power, back.
Right.
And to be able to enjoy who they are as a woman. That's their right to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And the guy being a jerk, you have to enable a guy to be a jerk to stay a jerk.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I totally hear you. Do you hear, listeners? What he's saying? That's what I've been preaching. So find your voice.
I grow a lot of men up in my office.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah. And they grow up. They grow up just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't let them keep being a jerk.
Right. Right. And it's a,
So
it's very
I hear that she's
common.
been victimized, that she's been hurt,
Mhm.
but she's also let herself continue to be hurt. She needs to
Right.
stand up.
Right. Because we, especially for women, it seems like that critical voice that says you're not beautiful, you're fat, what have you done to let yourself go?
Can we
You're
talk about
all
that for a
that.
minute?
Yeah, I would love to
Okay,
because it's
yeah,
the
because
most common.
I have in the book, The 5 Sex Languages, I talk about a little bit about sex in the brain. Well, if a man is having sex with you maturely, eyes open, lights on, nurturing conversation, if he's looking at you during sex, he's attaching to you neurologically. The
Mhm.
largest amount of brain chemicals, endorphins and kephalins and others, hit the prefrontal cortex and boom, they literally glue to whatever they're looking at. The good news is if he's looking at you during sex, he's gluing to you, so it doesn't matter what you look like. You could be as big as a barn or as skinny as a rail. You can be tall, you can be short, doesn't matter what color your hair is. He will glue to you, okay, like Velcro. So just make sure he's looking at you during sex. It doesn't matter what you weigh. It doesn't matter what size you are, top or bottom. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, if he's looking at pornography and has an attachment over there, and then tries to attach you, he's going to be confused. So you're going to feel that comparison. But if he's having sex maturely, eyes open, lights on, nurturing conversation, connecting to you, he is glued to you. So you can just throw the covers off and say, behold, the best thing you've ever seen in your life, and mean it, because he's glued to you.
Mm-hmm. In theory, I want to hear that and I want to accept that personally. But
Well, it's like ring the bell, feed the dog.
say that again.
It's like ring the bell, feed the dog, Pavlov's dog.
Okay.
Okay, so whatever the stimulus is, that's the woman's face and body.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter, because when he gets that chemical load, he glues to whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of women who don't feel that way about themselves and their own body image. So they don't want the lights
that's a whole other issue.
There's another issue. So
now, if you reject your own body, then that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they can do an exercise to find their sexuality, to own it, to play with it. I've had lots of women who've been sexually abused, abandoned, or living with sex addicts who've been injured in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And I do understand the healing process, but that's your responsibility to get your sexuality back.
Right.
It's your responsibility to look at your body and go, you're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. You're hot, baby. Like, you should be able to say that as a woman to yourself and mean it. And if you can't, just stay in that mirror until you can.
Well, that's
like, stop
easier
giving
said
yourself
than
an
done.
excuse not to like yourself.
Right. Well, then you hear people blaming, the whole ideal body image, body look.
You have to buy
my
that
vote.
Kool-Aid.
Right, but it's there, and I'm not.
But you have to buy it. I mean, you're a gorgeous woman. If you don't think so, then you bought the Kool-Aid.
Right.
That you're not enough.
Right.
And then who controls you? The people who buy cosmetics, the people who offer cosmetic surgery, the people who offer better clothes, better purses, better. You're just on a treadmill of being purchased.
Mm-hmm. Well,
women should be secure because they're just awesome as they are.
Right. That's the balance. But I know that, there's the one side where it's unrealistic to think that you could have the body that you had when you were 24 and modeling. And that's unrealistic, that you have to be okay with the aging process and, having kids and gaining some weight. And then there's the other extreme that says, well, you really, you use your body weight as a protection to keep people away, and you just don't care anymore. And then the other extreme of letting it go, and so what, I can just eat like a house. Definitely. Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think there are people who abandon themselves through drinking, through food, through sex. I mean, without addictions, I wouldn't have a job. And so, I get that there's addictions, and so that there's a balance there. But if you don't accept yourself, you're probably not going to heal.
Right. That's the number one job.
And if you need to be cardio in shape, get that. But you don't need to have a certain poundage. Now, but again, if your husband, most husbands don't have, if they're having sex maturely, don't have an issue with their wife's weight. Their wife has an issue with the weight. And then she comes to bed insecure and don't look at me and turn off the lights. Well, that's the worst thing you can do. You want the lights on so he can glue to who you are.
Good point.
And when you're amazing, you should be looked at.
And so starts with that. It's, do you really think you're amazing? That's the work. When you get to the point
Well,
where you
then
think you're
let's do a
amazing.
workshop together, and let's do an Amazing Women workshop. You know how to do it.
All
We'll
right.
straighten these ladies out.
Yeah,
Because
no, that sounds
there
great.
is a way for women to understand their amazingness and their awesomeness and really heal and forgive themselves if they've made mistakes, but to look at themselves without shame, without guilt, and understand that they're a beautiful, sexual, powerful force in the world. And if they can accept that, they're going to be a lot more fun than bed.
Yes. Amen to that. And with that, we're going to go to commercial break to thank the sponsors that we need and absolutely
I'm back. I hope you enjoyed that. It was the first half of the interview that I had. Oh, yay. Maria is in the house. She's waving. Hard conversation, but needed. Absolutely. And if you're wondering what's going on today, this is Take My Advice. I'm not using a gift balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA. NBC News Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube channel, where you will find the rest of that very important interview with Dr. Douglas Weiss. With 1,019 shows, I do have a great library with which to fall back on, and I was happy to be able to find that quickly. Sam, my co-host today on Straight Talk, is having some difficulty juggling his priorities. So he's not here, but we're still talking about 5 sex languages. Last week we talked about 5 love languages, and that is the interview with Dr. Douglas Weiss, who was on my show a little while back. And I'm glad that I could pull that up so you could hear about his opinions around, actually not his opinions, his research and his experience as a sex therapist, and he himself a recovering sex addict, I believe is how he termed it at the beginning. But I just want to pull up for review the exact, because he went through it pretty quickly. He was gonna in the second half, he does go through them in more detail, but we don't have time. So I'm just going to go to his website and share. Let's see. All right. It's nice to see that I just went to Google it, and here we go. It's got Amazon, Beauty Haven, Goodreads, and then mine's the first video. He was actually here too. He's been on Oprah as well, but okay, here we go. 5 sex languages, $199. Okay. Let's see. Does he actually? Nope, not on that one. But I know it's listed. Let's see if, yes, this is the one. All right, so here we go. Fun, desire, pleasure, patience, and acceptance celebration are the 5 different sex languages. So if I'm going to, and I'm absolutely encouraging you to go free subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can actually watch the rest of that interview. But if I look at this without doing a specific quiz, it's funny, when I went to look up quizzes the way we did it for last week, I found different, there's a quickie quiz, there's an erotic blueprint, and they're not based on his work. So they're based on their own work. So if I just look out of respect for the interview we just did. Fun, desire, pleasure, patience, and acceptance, celebration. Why do I have sex? Why? In my effort of, again, a little too much about myself, putting the moose on the table and living out loud here. I'm not quite sure what the patients wanted, but I would say, for better or for worse, acceptance is my sex language as an extension of feeling like I am being appreciated or feeling like I am doing something that will encourage you to accept me. Now, I heard what he said. Those of you who heard the last part of that um, conversation was, he's saying that women like me who have their own issues with body image, their own issues with body dysmorphia, not looking or feeling like they are attractive, that's not on the man, that's on the woman. That's on me. That's something that I think I'm going to work on this for the rest of my life. And I'm not blaming anyone, but certainly I was affected by being called fat, ugly, and clumsy. And it's a voice that I continue to work with and try to soothe and say, that's not true. A lot of you know that I've dropped some weight. It's funny. I just saw a comment on social, someone who hasn't seen me in a while and said, "Are you okay? Are you sick? Because you've lost a lot of weight." And no, I'm not. It was a purposeful thing because I wanted to do what Dr. Weiss was talking about, which is I need to work on my own getting to the point where I feel good about my body in bed so that when I'm with the guy, I'm not going to want the lights off or be embarrassed or not feel good about my body. So that's my my sisterly advice to any woman who feels that way, because as you heard Dr. Weiss say, it is really it's so important. Because from a guy's standpoint, once they are having mature sex and looking at you in the eye and engaging, he is attached to you. It's a physiological, hormonal, all of that it doesn't matter what you look like. He is just bonded with you in that moment. And he's not, now this is the mature guy, not one's addicted to porn, who have a different kind of attachment and the model of what a perfect body should look like. So if you are with a man who is mature and you know that, and you're sabotaging that relationship because you don't feel good about your body, that's on you. All right. So now I guess we do have a little time. Let's go look at, let's see which one. This one is 5 6 of the erotic blueprint. Now this I found 5 sex languages. Like, did they have a quiz on this? I'm not sure. Okay, this is not what I want. Somebody else's, I don't know if they're using, here we go. This is Doug's actual quiz. So let's go look at this one. And this is from his, let's see, is this the one? Nope. Let's see. It's on I think it's on this one. Okay, apologize. No, that's not the one either. Where is this guy? All right, there it is. It is the Quickie Blueprint. Is this the one I have on? Nope. All right. Thank you for being patient with me. It is this one. All right. Netflix, as seen on Netflix, Sex, Love, and Goop, the erotic blueprint quiz. Discover your primary erotic blueprint type. And let's see. Okay, this is not Dr. Weiss's. This is another one, but it was on Netflix. Okay, Sex, Love, and Goop. And I'm going to take this test. Let's see if we have time. Oh, we don't have time. Maybe I'll do this next week. I just want to see what the questions are. What is your favorite type of music to make love to? Doesn't matter, really. For me. During sex, what do you find yourself thinking about the most? I sense more than I think. My mind thinks about all kinds of things. How my body looks. Okay, that's me. And what best describes you when things go wrong? I easily get oversensitive and feel misunderstood, not seen by a lover. I tend to think a lot and feel worried. I feel shame about my desires. I get focused on my performance, having or not having an orgasm. None of these. Well, I think there's a combo here. I will maybe do this one or this one or this one. I'll just do this one. During sex, what do you most enjoy? Feeling a sense of oneness and connection, igniting all of your senses into orgasmic bliss, surrendering or taking control, penetrating or being penetrated. All of the above are equally enjoyable. I'll say all of the above. And when we come up on this question, I'm going to stop sharing because it's getting a little too steamy here. But I am, why am I talking about those things? This series actually was a follow through. When I used to be on once a week, every last week of the month, I did sexual healing with Dr. Marissa. And I'll give you my defense on why we talk about this so early in the morning. Now, it's because it's still important, especially for women who, if they're anything like me, and Maria said, difficult conversation to have, it's important to talk about and open up and be aware of where we are when it comes to intimacy and sex and pleasure, because if we're not, it's never going to get better. We're still going to follow that same habit that is just not working. So that's my defense. I hope you've enjoyed a little taste, literally, of this topic, and we'll certainly come back to it probably next week. Well, I can promise we'll come back to it next week, and maybe I'll show the other half of the interview. I'm sure we'll have Dr. Weiss back on as a result of revisiting this, because again, I do believe that being able to talk about this openly and respectfully is the way to get to happy 88% of the time in the bedroom. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room. I am grateful that you've joined me. Thank you for all of the eyeballs and the comments. And tomorrow, don't forget, it is Tempting Conversations with Dr. Marissa and my very beautiful co-host, Alon Carter. It's tempting because, of course, her dad is the founder of The Temptations, and you just never know what we're going to talk about. It is always a scintillating time with me. I hope that you will join me tomorrow. It's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Now go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow.